All right, let's get back to this story for a moment now, because the recent wave of terror attacks, including the mall ambush in Kenya, have raised new questions as to why the word Islamic radicalism is not used when we have these discussions about terrorism. You really didn't hear it at the United Nations in the address yesterday. President Obama did not address these type hits as Islamic terrorism. Let's talk about why that is and whether or not ignoring that phrase will prevent us from getting to any kind of solution in the future. Mike Baker is a former CIA covert operations officer and president of Diligence LLC, which is a global intelligence and security firm. And Zuhdi Jasser is the American Islamic Forum for Democracy. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here today. You know, I mean, I guess that's the question. Earlier in the show today, we outlined the 10 countries in which Christians have been targeted and killed. More than 100 churches have been burned and ruined in the course of this terrorism that exists. Mike, let me start with you. If we don't call it what it is and we don't recognize from whence it comes, can we ever hope to deal with it?
Well, not in as effective a manner as we should. You know, you've got to be able to understand the nature of the beast if you're taking it on. But this has been a reluctance for years now, stretching back into the Bush administration. And it's been a fairly concerted effort to de-link these words, essentially trying to remove the words of fundamentalist terrorism, of radical Islam from our language, and to the point where they've rewritten manuals. They've had instructional seminars on how to refer to this without bringing those words in, as if you take the words out, then you change the reality, and it's not really radical Islam that we're dealing with.
Judy, do the words matter?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I think the words matter. Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. The words matter, Martha, because if we don't identify it, we're actually on a different side than most moderate Muslims. In Egypt, we saw tens of millions, the largest demonstrations in humanity against the Muslim Brotherhood that wanted an Islamic state. And Muslims, the majority, don't want to live under the theocracy of the Islamists that are spreading and filling the vacuum that the pressure cooker of dictatorship that now has been opened is being filled by radical Islam. And the vast majority of Muslims don't want that, but yet we're allowing the petrodollars to feed the Islamist movements. We stand back, we don't take sides within, and we're basically allowing a Darwinian evolution of the Islamist groups through terrorism, through theocracy and oppression to fill that vacuum, while those who want secularism and freedom and liberalism are dying off as we sit.
You know, I mean, we've been talking about this a lot this week, and Bill O'Reilly was talking about it in primetime the other night. Mike, you know, that there's such a reluctance to call this what it is and to recognize that there is an effort underway by these fundamentalists, by these radicals, to basically create a new Islamic caliphate. And if you don't kind of, right. And also, you know, he was pointing out, and we point out here as well many times, that there's a need for moderate Muslims to take this on, to own it, to separate themselves from it. Is that ever going to happen, Mike?
Well, I don't think it will. I mean, look, there's been a concerted lobbying effort for several years. You look at CARE, at the Center for American and Islamic Relations, and the work that they do specifically to remove this references to radical Islam. And look, it minimizes the problem. If what we're fighting is Al-Qaeda or AQAP or Al-Shabaab, then, you know, in our minds here in America in particular, we start to imagine that this is some sort of end game. We can defeat these small groups, and we minimize what the real threat is, and also the fact that this is a long-term problem that's not going away anytime soon just because we may have success against a particular small group.
Because then it becomes just a military tactic and a military effort from one group to defeat another group. But Zuhdi, you have to recognize, as I know you do, and you've written so eloquently about this, the underlying motivation and where it comes from.
Absolutely, and that's why in my book, A Battle for the Soul of Islam, this is a battle within. And if the West doesn't have the courage to take sides within the House of Islam, the Darwinian evolution of the Islamists through Saudi Arabia, I mean, not only CARE, go to the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. This is not a conspiracy. It's 57 Muslim majority countries that their website condemns acts of terror, but the majority of their websites about the Islamophobic West, they're constantly putting us on the defense so that they can help the ascension of global groups like Jamaat Islamiyah, the Muslim Brotherhood, and others, so that moderates within their nations are not able to push back against the two fascisms of secular dictatorship and also of theocracy, as we see in Al-Shabaab and other groups are all byproducts of that, and they're in denial. Groups like CARE facilitate that denial, and they actually identify me as being anti-Muslim, even though I love my faith and I'm very orthodox, but yet they want to shut down free speech, and we facilitate that by not identifying the enemy as being the Islamic State.
We got to leave it there, but thank you so much to Zuzi Jasser and Mike Baker for being with us today. We'll talk more about it in the future. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you, Martha.
So far, it appears fewer than half have mentioned radical Islam in these speeches at the UN. They continue today, so we'll see whether or not that track record continues.